Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team. We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Pod.
Yo, what is going on, y'all? This is the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast coming at you with another installment, going live at 7 p.m. every single day, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm just excited to be here. Had a pretty chill day, just prepping for the show, and I'm ready to deliver it to y'all. Super excited about this one. Let's first want to completely let you guys know that the Patreon is up. The Patreon is up right now. I just did 2 nice segments yesterday, one being the Ricky Radar. So if you want, link in the description, go ahead, check out our Patreon and get that exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. You get me, just a couple more segments. I know that's what everybody wants, so just go ahead and hit subscribe, and then you see this. I say it every single episode. You see the little scrolly streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork is where you can drop a tip if you feel so kind. We're bringing this content to you guys for free, so go ahead and drop a tip in the tip box if you're up good, you feeling good, want to pay forward a little, nice little thing for worthy podcast host. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, let's get right into this fantasy news. We're starting with the injury news today. These guys are down this week, most likely. Start with Deontay Johnson, who got the hamstring injury. Seems like the hamstring is just getting everybody this year. Everybody watch out for your hamstring. Do some extra hamstring stretches, pre-game, pre-practice to stop that. Deontay Johnson with the hamstring. Greg Dulcich with the hamstring. Jacoby Myers looks like he's going to be in the 5-step concussion protocol after taking a nasty hit from one of the Broncos secondary members. That was absolutely awful. Then we actually got Kenneth Gainwell, who was ruled out today with the ribs. And then also some notable questionables that we have in the league. We're going to go Austin Eckler. He's got an ankle injury. He put up a crazy first week with 26.4 fantasy points, so that's not good to hear. Everybody used their first pick on Austin Eckler. He might be sitting down this week. Then we got Anthony Richardson with the knee bruise. Put up also a great week. Had 20.92 fantasy points. Then Aaron Jones, who had the hamstring, going on that big run after he caught that cool reception. Took it all the way to the crib, and then right at the end, he was, my leg, the Packers video. Who was that? Damn, I can't think of it. Goodness. I don't know, but yes, definitely some notable injuries to be looking out for. Make sure you guys are checking your lineups. I know a lot of y'all, you get to, Thursday right before the game, and then you're turning the game on. You're like, oh snap, I had a guy in this game and he's injured, or I didn't start him. So this is your alert. Go check your fantasy lineup right now. If you got to come back to the video after you check it, I don't mind, I promise. Without further ado, we're going to get into the first mini topic here, and that is the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack. What is going on with these guys, bro? Had a ridiculous week 1. Joe Burrow finished with a total of 3.2 fantasy points. Jamar Chase finishing with when you throw for 82 passing yards, and you only receive for 39 yards, you're just not going to be, fantasy contributor on any team. I know they don't personally care about being contributors on your fantasy team, but it's definitely not going to win you any games. That's for sure. And I would just like to ask, in this 24-3 loss to the Browns that they took, obviously there was bad weather, probably some fluky things happening, but right after Burrow gets signed to be the highest paid player in the league, he puts up this type of performance. He doesn't even throw a pick. Brother only threw for 82 yards. I'd rather you throw a pick. Show me that you're trying, Joe. Show me that you're trying to get the ball down the field and do something for your offense. Like I said, I get there was bad weather, but was this the NFL script in play? I guess that's my question. I could definitely see, there's too much FanDuel sports betting, too many factors, conspiracy theories might tell you that this was the game, the one game that they picked to be the script, and to not go well, maybe they just paid Joe Burrow and he got a little bit of money and he was like, all right, I guess we could just throw this first game on some Adam Sandler from, goodness, what movie is that? Why can't I think of it? So sorry. Y'all know what movie I'm talking about, where he threw the game and now he's in jail. Longest Yard? Yes, The Longest Yard. Joe Burrow's on some longest yard stuff right now, throwing games. There's absolutely no way. I don't care about the weather. That he should have only threw for 82 yards in a game. However, on the other side of the ball, Deshaun Watson didn't throw for a ton of yards either. So maybe we just saw a fluke. I do expect these guys to bounce back, but I'm pretty sure this game was absolutely scripted. T. Higgins, 0 catches on 8 targets in that game. That doesn't even make any sense to me. Tyler Boyd didn't do much, only 2 catches for 10 yards. And it's really weird because this Bengals offense last year was so solid. Third in passing yards per game, and they averaged 26 points per game last year as well. So this is definitely a team, not a team that should be putting up, anything less than 20 points is a bad week for this team. And week 2, they're going to be going up against the Ravens, and I think the script is off because, the sports books got them at a big favorite at home, against a pretty decent Lamar Jackson team. But watch out for that game. I do have Jamar and Joe going crazy, but you just never know in the league today, man. All right, let's get right into my top 10 receivers. That's going to be a wonderful thing to get into. If I could get it up, get out of there, and get up here. Yes, sir. Week 2, top 10 receivers. And with number 1, I'm just going to start extra hot today and go with Tyreek Hill. I have him as the best receiver in the league at the moment. I think he really showed that to us in week 1, just running all over the field, making a whole lot of plays. And I love to see it. He's going to go up against Jonathan Jones and Christian Gonzalez being his primary defenders. And I just think he has an edge both ways. And getting 15 targets last week, I'm sure the targets are not going to be too far away this week. The man is hot right now. The energy is definitely there. And I absolutely expect a big week from Tyreek Hill. Probably definitely over 100 yards, maybe a touchdown. I think 100 yards is definitely a lock for him. And he's going to have a crazy fantasy day. So, if you weren't thinking about starting Tyreek Hill, make sure you're going to start Tyreek Hill. Have him as my number 1. Then I have a bit of a controversial number 2 here, going with Mr. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. And that is because his primary defender, Marlon Humphrey, is currently questionable. And I generally just think that last week was either scripted or it was a fluke or it was rigged. I can't come up with any other explanation for the Joe Burrow Jamar Chase stack to, put up 12 total points with Joe Burrow being 3 points. That's a guy that should be putting up 15 plus every single week. So I definitely have those two going crazy this week at home in the home opener versus Baltimore. Jamar also has a great history versus the Ravens, multiple at least 80-plus yard games with 8 or 9-plus catches. I was looking on StatMuse. That's my favorite place to look. If you guys are looking for some stat information, definitely want to check that out. But, yeah, he has a great history. Obviously, this is a divisional opponent, and I just see him getting it done. I truthfully just see him getting it done on Sunday. Then my next guy, number 3, and he can make an argument for 1, 2, or 3. Maybe should have put this guy at 2, but Justin Jefferson, obviously. But I don't love his matchup just because he's going up against one of the best corners in the league versus Slade Jr., Darius Slade Jr. But he still gets to be at 3 for me because I really don't care who's in front of him. It's really Justin Jefferson at the end of the day. This guy runs the crispiest routes in the league. He's one of the most elusive players in the league. Probably has the best hands in the league. Most catch radius in the league with the long wingspan that he has. And he's just a dangerous player at all times. Even if 2 people are looking at him, it's seeming like he can get it done. last game he was getting a lot of looks where two DBs had eyes on him. He would just give the fake out, come back in, and make a sweet play. And that's just what this guy does. Definitely one of the best receivers in the league. Maybe should have put him at 2, but I have him at 3. And then we got A.J. Brown going up against Minnesota, and his primary defender is going to be Byron Murphy Jr. Byron Murphy Jr. is a corner that I really, really, really like. And when he was on the Cardinals, every single time I would see him make a play, and I didn't know who he was yet. He was one of the guys I had to look up and be like, who is this man? Why is he making so many plays? And then he ends up on the Vikings. I'm sure they got him for free because it seems like every trade or, random signing in the league, you just throw a 7th round pick or a 4th round pick, and, you can get, Saquon Barkley or just whoever you want, pretty much for free. But, yeah, A.J. Brown going up against Byron Murphy. I still think he has the advantage just because of his speed and strength, as well as, just a nice quarterback to get him the ball, too. This defense is awful, so I'm sure Byron Murphy's not just going to shadow AJ the whole time because he's got to still respect Devontae Smith over there, and then, Goddard and Quez Watkins, who are also threats. But this defense gave up 20 points to Baker Mayfield, so I'm very excited to see what on Thursday night Minnesota's defense is going to give to the Eagles, who have the ability to put up points in bunches, and we saw that a lot last year. So I'm excited for that game. I'm excited for A.J. Brown. I have him ranked at 4. And at 5, I'm going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown. His primary defender is going to be Tariq Woolen, which is not like the most amazing thing in the world because obviously Tariq is a dog. But this guy gets unlimited targets. He's always the number one option as it pertains to the Lions. So there's no question that I'm going to have him sitting at a top 5 receiver this week just because of the work that he has the potential to get. At 6, I'm going to have Stephon Diggs, and his primary defender is going to be Marcus Peters, and that's just another guy I think he absolutely just has a complete mismatch against, and I don't mind putting him at 6 just because of his unlimited workload. Him and Amon-Ra are just a couple guys who are always going to get work, so I'm loving with the lack of weapons that the Bills currently have, putting Diggs at 6. At 7, I'm going to have Olave at Carolina. Primary defender going to be Dante Jackson. And I just think he's too fast for this guy. Dante Jackson's still a pretty good corner in the league. But I don't think most corners can keep up with Olave. And Dante is not known for his speed. So I have no problem putting him at 7. He had a 100-yard game in week 1. And I think he's just going to fly around the field in week 2. At 8? 8, 9, 10, 8. We got DK Metcalf against the Lions, primarily going up against Cameron Sutton, and I just think this guy's way too big. Actually, from looking at all the other rankings, a lot of people have DK at like 15, and I have him all the way up at 8 just because I like the matchup for them. I don't think that the Lions secondary is overly good besides C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who's playing safety. He will be over the top, but I think they'll at least be able to find DK on some short routes. And then, when he has the one-on-one off the play action, I'm sure he can make a big play. He got into the end zone week 1. I fully expect him to do the same in week 2. Next guy at 9, I'm going to have Devontae Adams. He's going up against the Bills and Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White is coming off an injury recently this last I don't know if it was off season or last season, but he is coming off an injury, and he actually just got absolutely mossed by Garrett Wilson. If you didn't see that, it was absolute sight to see. And he had 9 targets last week, didn't do anything too crazy against the Broncos, and pass retained, but that's a guy that I really have respect for at the corner position. Put him as a top 3 corner. I don't think he'll be denied this game, so I have him at 9. And then at 10, I really reach for this one because me, I'm all about, going my own route and not following the rankings of just all the fantasy football gurus. I actually have DeAndre Hopkins versus the Chargers at my number 10 wide receiver this week. His primary defender is going to be J.C. Jackson, who literally got benched during the week or during the game against the Miami Dolphins. and just making boneheaded plays out there. He got a pick. He got a pretty lucky pick in the end zone. Then, took it out like 4 yards for no reason, and he should have just downed it. It doesn't seem like he's too locked in. This is a bad defense in general, even with the nice pass rushers they have, and apparently they pay their defense more than anyone else in the league, and they still can't get it done on defense, which is definitely concerning. And then they're going to have to stack the box for Mr. King Henry to not have him run around the field completely. So I think the talent on the outside, DeAndre Hopkins, will make a difference in this game, and that's why I have him at 10. Yes, sir. We are going to take a quick break real quick. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the Patreon, all of that. Definitely appreciate y'all. When I come back, we're going to talk about... What are we going to talk about? The spiciest offenses this week, so definitely come back. Thank you. Boom. We are right back with it. Hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you guys are staying positive out there. Not getting too down in the dumps if you lost week 1. There's a lot of season left, so, make sure you're staying positive out here. Let's bring this graphic up. Talking about the spiciest, best offenses that I like to burst this week and just go crazy. And the first offense I want to talk about is the Eagles offense. Love these guys. Have a ton of weapons, and weapons they're not even using. They had Rashad Penny inactive for week 1, so that was definitely weird. Had a pretty decent showing against a Patriots defense that obviously showed that they're a solid squad. So, and still found a way to edge it out. It was a little weird. Obviously, the Eagles weren't even that big of favorites, and they were away, but I definitely like them to pounce all over this Vikings defense in week 2 that, gave up the 20 points to Baker. If you're giving up 20 points to Baker, I don't even know what you're about to give up to Jalen Hurts. It's going to be extra bad, and that is my prediction. Thursday night football, Vikings on defense have a mid pass rush, mid linebackers, and a mid secondary besides Byron Murphy Jr. I really don't know a lot of names. They have, an old Daniil Hunter rushing the quarterback, and that's just not going to get it done against a great O-line that the Eagles sport. Last week, Eagles had a pretty decent week receiving wise. From a fantasy perspective, AJ Brown 10 targets got 79 yards. Smith 10 targets, 47 yards in the touchdown, and then Hurts went for 170 in the touchdown. He was getting boxed up a little bit. Also added 9 carries for 37 yards, and like I said, they didn't even have Penny, who is one of the most efficient rushers from a yards per carry perspective. Absolutely like them to burst this week with it seems like they have an advantage rushing completely, and then they have an advantage passing as well. So I don't know who's going to get it done. I don't know if Byron Murphy's going to find a way to, not let AJ Brown, or maybe they'll throw him on skinny Batman Devontae Smith to try to lock him up. But one of those guys is absolutely going to get free for sure. I wouldn't, I wouldn't mind seeing, Goddard get involved, Swift get involved, all those guys get involved. I don't want to touch on them too much because I'm going to hit them in the next segment where I'm talking about Thursday Night Football, so make sure you're staying for that. Let's move on to the 49ers offense, which is another offense I just really like to burst. Let's be honest, Brock Purdy is, he's a real quarterback in the league. He's an actual difference maker. Obviously, he has a lot of solid weapons around him. Probably the most talented offense in the league, with having McCaffrey back there, Ayuk and Debo, who are both dogs, and then Kittle, who doesn't even need to make a fantasy impact to have an amazing game for his team. Start with Kittle. He literally had 3 catches for 19 yards last game, but he was, blocking his behind off, just working in the running game, as they were just absolutely tearing the life out of a really good Pittsburgh Steelers defense. 30-7 victory in week 1. And they really weren't favored too heavily, so it was really surprising to see. Chris McCaffrey, that guy's literally a horse. I really enjoy watching him play, just being from Colorado, getting to watch him just come up and then now honestly be the best running back in the league. It's just a sight to see against a good front four and good linebackers. 22 carries, 152 yards, plus the touchdown. Also added in 3 catches for 17 yards, and he's usually going to do a lot more than that in the passing game too. Just a guy who got 25 total touches in a game. You love to see that from a fantasy perspective. Seems like he's a worthy first-round pick, running behind a really good offensive line and one of the best left tackles in football in Williams. Then, my bad. Also got Debo Samuel, who's super solid. Apparently had a really good offseason. Finished week 1 with 5 receptions for 55 yards off 7 targets. When he gets 7 targets and he's going to add some rushing upside too, I definitely expect him to probably add in more fantasy points than he did. I think he finished with like around 13 fantasy points. I'm a bit biased because I do have Debo Samuel in my leagues, but I expect him to probably have a better week here in week 2. And then we got Ayuk. He went for obviously 8 catches, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's seeming to be the favorite for Brock Purdy, the guy he leans on in those third down situations. So Ayuk probably gets rostered up to wide receiver 1 status at the moment until he proves that he's not. I originally thought that Debo was going to grab that wide receiver 1 spot, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be him. Even in the preseason, he was eyeing Ayuk all the time. Reports coming from camp saying that, even during camp, that Ayuk just is that guy for him. So definitely something to pay attention to. Might want to be moving Ayuk into that number 1 wide receiver role for your team. And then the next offense we're going to go over is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers offense and Mr. Justin Herbert. I'm just going to go over, their matchup with the Titans here. It looks pretty solid in my opinion. I think the Herbert-led offense with Eckler, they have solid elite quarterback play. Justin Herbert has one of the strongest arms in the league, probably the strongest arm other than Josh Allen's, in my opinion. Elite running back in Austin Eckler, but obviously he's on the injury report, so pay attention to that. 2 A-side receivers in Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, plus the rookie Quentin Johnson that they just drafted. And then as I was watching the game and they were playing against the Dolphins, they also have 2 really good tight ends too in Parham and Everett. Like both of those guys, Parham looked like a real red zone threat, and they were looking to him down when they get to the red zone. They ranked 7th in run block and 4th in pass block in PFF for week 1. So going up against a pretty decent front four for the Titans, but not much else besides Kevin Byard back there. I fully expect the Chargers to go off against most good defenses. So against a mid-tier defense that the Titans are sporting, I definitely expect them to have a good game. If Austin Eckler's not playing, that's definitely going to hold a factor. But Josh Kelly he looks much slimmer. He looks much faster. In the week 1 performance, he definitely was getting work. And Eckler wasn't having to carry the entire load because he's also already like the pass catching back, a guy who they want in on those big third down plays. So Josh Kelly's going to have to come in there and make a couple plays himself, carry the ball, and it seems like he's worthy to do that. They spent a lot on their offensive line too. have a decent offensive coordinator, and they put up 462 total yards of offense in week 1. So something to keep in mind. I definitely see the Chargers getting down on offense. And I don't see them putting up any less than 20 points. Probably a lock to win this game against the Titans. And those are my 3 offenses that are set to burst for week 1. We're going to take another quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking about Thursday Night Football and the fantasy implications that Thursday Night Football has. Cool. Thank you. Let's do it. Yes, sir. We're back again. Gonna be giving a little analysis on the Thursday Night Football game that is happening tomorrow, because we really won't have a chance to do that because we do go live at 7 p.m. Mountain Time every single day. So make sure you guys are tuning in right when we start. I'm begging someone to chirp me in the comments and just let me know if you guys are liking my takes. If you guys think my takes are hot garbage, let me know, please. Just need some feedback out in these streets. But we're gonna go to Thursday Night Football here. Pretty interesting game in my opinion. Gonna be Eagles Vikings in Philadelphia. Technically 2 elite offenses, and 2 very good top receivers playing in AJ Brown and Justin Jefferson, who I expect to both get pretty good work in this game. The Vikings secondary, like I've been saying all video, is pretty mid or bad, besides Byron Murphy Jr. And then on the other side, for the Eagles secondary, they are actually banged up at the moment with James Bradbury and Reed Blankenship, who is their starting free safety, being out. Obviously, Jefferson is going to match up against Slay, and then AJ Brown's going to match up against Byron Murphy. So I do think there's a possibility that all of the talent on the field just kind of cancels itself out in a way, just because we have top 5 cornerbacks and top 5 receivers. They're going to be matched up and be very motivated to take each other out of the game or outdo one another as they go for 50 or 60 snaps. That's the thing in the NFL. It's just kind of weird because there's a very limited amount of offensive and defensive plays that each team gets, so you can't take every single game as law. There's a definite sample size problem. If games are a bit longer, maybe we would see who really is better, but sometimes the worst player can get the best of a good player, so have to keep your eyes on that. I think this is a game where the second options are probably going to be the ones that actually have the day. Guys like Devontae Smith, guys like Jordan Addison, even Goddard, Swift, TJ Hawkinson. These guys all had pretty decent performances week 1, and I expect them to, just because all the talent's going to be going up against each other, maybe these guys will have a bit of a edge against a worse player on the opposing team. Devontae Smith, obviously 10 targets last week with a touchdown. Jordan Addison had 6 targets and a long bomb touchdown score. Hawkinson, 9 targets, finished with 11.5 fantasy points, which was good to see. And then the 2 other guys that I mentioned, Swift and Goddard, only had 3 combined touches, with Swift having 2, Goddard having 1. But Kenneth Gainwell is going to be out with a rib injury. So expect a guy like DeAndre Swift a guy like Rashad Penny to, get at least a little bit more work in a game like this with the Vikings not really being able to stop the run or the pass. I expect a big game from the Eagles offense. I'd be excited to know what their team total is on the books because I'm sure it's pretty high. And I also would expect the Vikings team total to be at least relatively high given that the Eagles secondary is already banged up. And they didn't look too good against, a Mac Jones-led offense last week. I definitely think the Vikings outdo the Patriots on offense perspective. I am a little bit scared of, the Vikings rushing attack. It doesn't seem like Madison is going to be the guy for them. He did get in the end zone, but he just didn't look too explosive to me. He doesn't look like he's going to be the guy that would be like their running back one. So they might be looking to Chandler, who is the current running back two, who's a rookie. He looks a little bit more explosive in my opinion, but I really don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to go with one of those two guys, and they're both don't have any pathway to be an elite option in the league. So definitely interesting to note. On the other side, obviously, Penny and Swift are both unproven in this Eagles offense, and only Kenneth Gainwell was getting any of the work last week. So it'll be an interesting matchup from offense perspective. I'm definitely leaning the Eagles with ESPN giving them 65% to win, and I'm also expecting very big offensive showings from both teams, probably the over to hit, and those second options to do some damage and look really good. From a fantasy perspective, just ranking guys, how I see it, fantasy points from like top to bottom, it would be Jalen Hurts probably finishing one, and then Justin. I don't know. See, I think Jalen Hurts has like a really good day rushing, maybe like a touchdown or something with a bunch of yards, because they're going to be want to take A.J. Brown away. So I think he has like a really big rushing day. And then I think Justin Jefferson on the other side has probably a pretty big day. A.J. Brown's going to add a little bit. So he would be 3. Then probably skinny Batman Devontae Smith at 4. Hawkinson at 5. And then just how they fall with Swift, Goddard. Maybe throw Jordan Addison a little bit higher because he just seems to have a little bit more upside than these other guys. I guess we enjoyed what we saw from Jordan Addison in week 1. I was not a personal believer of the hype of Jordan Addison, and he was actually making some moves out there, caught that deep bomb. So look to him to be, a pretty good wide receiver too for you in fantasy. Can see him absolutely making some moves. But the guys that I'm not high on are obviously the Madisons of the world. Still the Chandlers of the world, and then until Penny or Swift are proven to be factors in that Eagles offense that has such a good offensive line that we really would expect someone to be a running back that can come over there and find a way to make a difference. But neither of them have yet. Obviously, still week 1, very early. Someone is probably going to, just because of that ridiculous offensive line that they sport. So. Yeah, definitely leaning the Eagles, definitely leaning with Jalen Hurts and Justin Jefferson and A.J. Brown to have big, big days. And that is my Thursday Night Football analysis. We are going to take one more quick break, and when I come back, we're going to go to the my most favorite part of the episode. It's going to be me checking out the GOAT Whale, Book It with Trent's NFL GOAT Whale, and we're just going to talk about where it's at right now and how it's going and my kind of analysis on his picks and stuff like that. We will be right back. Thank you. Yo, we're right back. Let's just get straight into it. No need to take too big of a break at all. And we're gonna be going with the goat. Well, can I get rid of this, please? Yes, sir. So, if you don't know, Booker with Trent, just like a serial gambler. At this point, he's just part of the culture, and he has to be talked about. I love this guy. I think he's freaking hilarious and has a ton of hot takes. And this guy bets more money than I have seen anyone bet every single day. Just loading up 5U whales like it's nothing. At least like three 5U whales. So talking about the goat whale, it's surprising to see him only put 10K on the line, because I would expect this man to just be unloading like at least 50 bands on his favorite players. But maybe he just wants to save some money for the rest of his picks every single day. I get that, but Trent, I'm calling you out to put more money on the goat whale. You bet like thousands of dollars every day. 10 bands is not enough for the goat whale. We need more. But quickly, let's just go over who he's picked and who he's picked for the goat whale and who he has going over. I guess he has one guy under, but let's just talk about who he has in this ting. Got Deshaun Watson over 3,625.5 yards. Justin Fields 2,930 passing yards. And, it's kind of interesting that he goes with the passing yards here instead of the rushing yards. Then we got Dak Prescott under 12.5 interceptions, which I definitely like that pick. Mark Andrews over 6.5 touchdowns, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown over 95.5 receptions. Let's just start with the Deshaun Watson pick. I think this is a fantastic pick, in my opinion. Definitely a good pick. Going with the Deshaun Watson over. This is a guy who's led the league in passing before. Just 3 seasons ago, he went for 4,000 plus. So this looks like something that could be an easy clear. Ton of options over there. In Cleveland, got Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, who had an absolutely great camp from what the people over in the Browns camp were saying. DPJ, straight out of Michigan, who's an explosive wide receiver. Marquise Goodwin, who's literally a track star, runs like a 4.3. I don't even know how old he is. He's been in the league for so long, and it just seems like he just keeps going, and keeps being a deep threat at every single point in the game. He could definitely go deep and be a game breaker. And then he's got Njoku at tight end, who's Drake's best friend, and hard worker. Definitely like Njoku, solid player. That's a whole lot of receiving options in my opinion. So I definitely think this is a sharp pick. I don't know how this is only set at 3,600 yards when he's already shown and proven that he can do a lot more. Obviously in week 1 he only put up 154 passing yards, but Joe Burrow only put up 82 passing yards, and he pretty much doubled that in a bad weather game. So I definitely expect him to have at least a couple like 300 plus yard games with like 2 or 3 touchdowns. I expect Deshaun Watson to be in revenge mode, demon mode. So this is a sharp pick for sure. Then let's move over to Justin Fields, and he took his passing yards instead of his rushing yards, which I thought was a little bit weird because Justin Fields is definitely a running back. But he got him at a pretty good number. He doesn't even have to go over 3,000 for him to catch this leg of the goat whale. Last year, he threw for 2,242 yards, so significantly less. But last year, he was literally throwing the ball with 2 hands, looking like he's like shooting a basketball when he's throwing. At least week 1, when I was watching him throw the ball, his throwing motion looked a lot more crisp and just like tight instead of being like all the way out here. Because I was definitely unfortunate to watch Justin Fields throw the ball. It looked like he was throwing like a 30-pound ball, and everyone else got to throw like the 1 pound, 2,000, however many pounds the football actually is. It just looked difficult for him to get the ball out of his hands. But I think because the defense is so scared of Fields taking off and running, that he probably does find a way to catch this. Just picked up wide receiver DJ Moore, still has Claypool and Mooney who caught a touchdown this past week. So I absolutely see him probably finding a way to get over. We shall see, though, just because Justin Fields is, in fact, a running back. Next, we got Mr. Dak Prescott, who his team had a really big day, shut out the Giants 40-0, absolutely slaughtered them, but he didn't have that big of a day himself. He only went 13 for 24 with 143 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So at least he doesn't start with the interception. Seems like he could be good here. 13 interceptions is a whole lot to throw, but we'll see how Dak Prescott handles himself in those tough situations, because they're definitely coming, man. They are absolutely coming. Their offense isn't the most elite in the world. They definitely don't have just like 2 or 3 elite receivers that can just get it done every single time. Obviously, they do have Cooks. They do have CD. Still have Gallup, who are all good options. But, the question is always, is Dak able to get the ball to these, decent guys and let them work out without throwing any picks? Because this guy is a big interception guy. 2 times in his career, he's already thrown over 13 picks. But he's played for, multiple years. So I don't think this is that bad of a pick. If you have the Cowboys doing well this year, from a fantasy perspective, I would never play Dak as my quarterback. I really don't care what happens, unless he starts showing me some Mississippi State type days where he's running all over the field and, throwing on the run like an absolute champion. I will never touch Dak Prescott in a fantasy league, personally. Next, we got Mr. Mark Andrews. He put Mark Andrews in here for over 6.5 touchdowns. I don't know why it doesn't have this, but yeah, over 6.5 touchdowns is the pick that he took. Obviously, Mark Andrews didn't even play week 1, so that was unfortunate. Gonna start a little bit behind the 8 ball here, but in the past 3 seasons, Mark Andrews went 5 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns, and then 7 touchdowns, with the 5 touchdowns being last year. But he also had Tyler Huntley in there, who, in my opinion, is just not that good of a quarterback. So if he had Lamar Jackson, I'm assuming that he would have scored a couple more touchdowns at least. One of the most dominant tight ends in the league. He feels like a power forward and just boxes all the DBs and linebackers out and just catches the ball. Also super fast. So I don't know about this pick. You can't call it with touchdowns, man. It's just really hard to say that a guy's going to score a bunch of touchdowns. They only had Justin Jefferson listed at like 8.5 touchdowns on the book. And I guess they have Mark Andrews at 7. Is that weird? Like, Justin Jefferson, I feel like, should be listed at like 12 or 13 touchdowns. Whereas Mark Andrews, this is probably a decent number for him. But not starting week 1, I'm sure it might have already dropped. And, within their division, there are definitely some tough defenses. So we'll see if he can get this done. This is the one I'm not as hopeful for. The other ones actually look pretty solid to me at the moment. And afterwards we'll go over the update and see like where they're at currently. Obviously. Finally, he's got Amon-Ra St. Brown here for over 95.5 receptions. Amon-Ra St. Brown is absolutely clearing 96 receptions. And I don't even think that's a question. He started week 1 with 6, and if he were to get 6 every single game, he would finish at 102, so clearing it by another 6. And to get the prize, and I didn't even say this is $10,000 for $100,000. So if he would have done, $50K, he could have got $500K. So if he was confident, I think he would have, put the whole bag. It's obvious that he's getting the bag from all of his sponsorships and stuff. Like I said, I love Booker with Trent, but I think he should have put more money on the GOAT wheel. But yeah, Amon-Ra needs to average like 5.5 catches per game to clear this. Last year he had 106 receptions, and people didn't even really know who he was until like the middle of the season, his rookie year. He had 90 receptions, quietly had a beautiful year. So if if he can't get 6 more catches than his rookie year, when Dan Campbell's all hyped up about the Lions and everybody's super high on them, including me, I don't know, I can't tell you why, besides maybe an injury, which is always weird with these. So like, maybe they should honestly give you like a slightly better number just because of the injury risk, and maybe they do factor that in. but I'm just not sure. But it seems that Amon-Ra has solidified himself now after this week 1 performance as a top 10 wide receiver. So I really don't see how the 95 and a half, 96 total receptions doesn't hit in any possible way. That's just my personal opinion, though. Guys, if you stay to the end, I really appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching and everything. Hope y'all have a good rest of your day. Make sure you're liking and subscribing, and hit the Patreon if you want the extra segments, the exclusive content that we at GSMC are bringing y'all. Shout out Andrew Tate and all the GSMC team. I love y'all, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.